Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody. It's Midge Noble, and I am your host for the Gay with God podcast, and I want to thank you again for joining me. I love spending Media Monday with you, and I hope that you continue to enjoy this podcast. And I also hope that if you're ready to share your coming out faith journey story, that you will email me at empoweredmidge@gmail.com, and I will send you the link to request your own personal taping for your coming out faith journey story. Remember that every story is unique. No matter how many themes may be the same, it is your personal story, your personal journey, and where you landed. Because we definitely all landed in different places. There are people who lost their faith, never had a faith in organized religion to begin with, or they developed a faith. It really spans everything. Some of us had great experiences with our families and friends, and others did not. So it really depends on your unique story, and someone is waiting to hear yours. I've heard that over and over, that we've told so many and honored so many stories, but there's this one story that someone will say, oh, it was that one that was like mine, or it was that one that reminded me, or I really was able to come out after hearing that one. I didn't kill myself because I heard that one. So you never know if you're going to be the one for someone. I personally believe that every story is that for someone. We may never know it, but I've heard enough feedback that I do know that our stories matter. They are important, not only for us to be able to put it out there, but also for people to hear it. So I really appreciate those who have been on my show. I really love the fact that you were brave enough to do it. And I love the fact that I'm brave enough to have this podcast because it's not always easy. However, I love honoring your stories, and I believe in the power of stories, and I believe in the power of you. So if you're ready, come on and email me at empoweredmidge@gmail.com, and I'll send you the link to request your taping, and you'll get on my schedule, and that would be delightful. Until that day that you schedule your podcast, I want to continue today by reminding you that I am thrilled that I will be at the Wild Goose Festival, July 11th through the 14th. I will be taping the Gay with God podcast live at the festival, and I'm so excited to do that. I have a guest all lined up, and I also have an offering for you that the festival that I love so much, it has the engaging workshops, interactive experiences. There is something for everyone. There's music, we can jam out. There's drum circles usually going on. There's all sorts of cool stuff. So mark your calendars for July 11th through the 14th, and let's be a part of this incredible community that is committed to making a positive impact in the world. For more information, you can go to www.wildgoosefestival.org, and I will post that on the show page. And as one of my followers, I will also post the discount code that you can use when you go to purchase your adult weekend ticket, and you'll get $50 off of that ticket. So what's not to love? So go to the show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com and scroll down through the content so that you can see the link to the Wild Goose Festival where you can buy your tickets and grab that discount code that's on there so that you can also get $50 off. And I will see you there. Please stop by the Goose Tent, which is where the podcasters hang out, and I'll be doing my podcast. And please introduce yourself. If you're a listener and I don't know you personally, please stop by the Goose Tent and introduce yourself and let me know how this podcast is helping you and what you're getting out of it. I would love to hear from you. Today, I have a pretty serious topic, and I think it's important for us to really dig in and pay attention. I've said before, I've had many guests on this podcast, and I've said, I'm just not political. I've never been politically minded. I don't follow politics. I don't like politics. I don't pay attention usually. I always vote. I do know who I'm voting for. I do know what they stand for before I vote for them. And I feel like I've made, pretty good choices. However, I've become more political over time, and because I have my voice on this podcast and wherever it winds up, I hope it finds the people it needs to find. And today I'm going to talk about, you know, our LGBTQIA plus and interracial rights. And what if those rights were taken away? Now, we don't have all of them anyway. We know that. We know that we have rights. Somebody comes into office, we may not have rights. Somebody else comes back into office, we may have rights. But we've never really had the rights that are solid rights that are pretty much cemented in, and people can't mess with them. We don't have that luxury as a heterosexual would have the right to be married and nobody questions it. Nobody. Nobody takes it away. Nobody does anything. It's just there. They go to the doctor. Nobody asks, you know, who is your husband or who's your, I mean, they may ask, but it's just a given that you have a person who is going to be your advocate. When we started having marriage rights in this country, we had to carry our license with us, and we still do, really. We carry our marriage license with us in the car, on our phone, somewhere, so that we can verify that we are the legal married person to our spouse who needs medical attention. And that's just not normal. Nobody asks for a heterosexual marriage license. And, it's just crazy. So now we're facing a whole nother era of fear-based mongering, and there's a lot going on, and it's really hard to keep up, and it's really hard to know what has just been a dramatized piece on the news, somebody making it a whole lot worse than it is, and when, it really is true. The one thing that really rattled me this past weekend, and that's, I think, why my brain went in this direction today, is that I saw a commercial on television for a political candidate who was a Republican, I guess is a Republican, and the entire commercial had weapons and the flag and shooting things and this guy in, combat gear. And when the whole thing finished, his picture with the flag and his gear and guns were in the final thing to say vote for, yeah, for whatever they're promoting as far as this new regime. It blew me away. Now, I know that candidates who have a military background have been preferred when they're going for office. However, this was like over the top crazy looking. And I turned to my beloved and I said, when have we ever had a commercial that promoted so much AR-15 stuff? I mean, seriously, what is it about this commercial that it's so different than it's ever been when you're looking at a candidate and what they're promoting? It is almost like they want you to know right off the bat that they believe that they have to take back the country from you and me and anyone else who doesn't fit their very narrow vision of what America should be. And that narrow vision is white, Christian, evangelical, 1950s patriarchy. And you don't have to go any further than getting yourself a copy of Project 2025, which is the playbook, the first 180 days, the thing that the next administration wants to have in place and what they're working on. Now, I know that some of my friends are Republicans and they're gay, they're Republican and they're black, and I'm not saying anything about Republicans. I'm talking about this current very, very, very right-winged folks who don't believe in any diversity whatsoever, and they are the ones who love that commercial that I was appalled of. They love the fact that there's a strong male military gun toting shooting person that wants to go into Congress. They love that. Absolutely love that. Does the guy have anything to value us with if he gets there besides his gun? Does he have a brain? Does he have plans? Does he have anything that's going to be worth us as a whole? Will he represent all of us, or is he only going to represent the people who want Donald Trump to be voted in again? So I I watched a video of Trump, and I heard him say that on day one, he plans to cut federal funds to schools who are pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children. Now, this is disturbing to me because what he's saying is all of these things are bad and our children shouldn't be exposed to them. You and I both know that teaching about history, critical race theory, talking about what's happened, talking about what we need to do to avoid it, being sensitive to different people's diverse expression of who they are. So he wants to wipe out anything being taught to kids except for mommy and daddy get married and they have children and they go to church and they go to this particular church. I mean, he's really buttoning up what is going to be accepted if he gets back into office. It was really clear that he plans to completely restrict LGBTQ rights. He wants to ban the military from allowing transgender people to serve. He's limiting workplace discrimination protection, and he would rescind health care protections for trans people. He will urge Congress to define gender as male and female. So there, that word Congress, to urge Congress, that means that if he has enough people who are his people and they're going to vote his way and they're going to do what he wants in Congress, then that's when we need to pay really close attention to who are senators and representatives that are going into Congress to speak for all of us. If they're only going to speak for the white Christian evangelical people, everybody else that identifies as LGBTQIA plus is not going to be represented. And worse, we might be just erased. They really, on this Project 2025, it was created by the conservative think tank. It was created by 100 right-wing organizations. And most of those people, they said, were people from his first term. And so these are people, the person talking about this named them loyalists, that they would be loyal to Trump. They would help him to kind of skirt around whatever laws as he can do, skirt around the law, do his own thing, and that they would kind of like buffer him and let some of these things go. Is it legal? No, it would not be legal. But has that ever stopped Mr. Trump? No, it has not. So that's why we need to pay attention. And that's why we need to understand that this is not just something that we want to wish away. This is something we have to proactively deal with. We have to make a point this time. We really have to make a stand as to what do we want our lives to look like after this next election. Do you still want your marriage certificate to be valid? Do you still want to have the right to marry the person that you choose? And the reason that I named this particular episode LGBTQIA plus slash interracial marriage rights, because if you're not white, if you are in an interracial marriage, you are not going to fare as well after this election as you have before. The whole point of understanding diversity and having diversity education in institutions like colleges and businesses, federal businesses, that's how we got civil rights. That's how people started making this movement. So if you don't have that protection, then we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And absolutely, that's part of the 2025 project is they want to terminate diversity education inclusion training. They want to completely take it out of places that teach it, and they want to remove equity and inclusion from federal agencies. So that means that if you are a person who has diversity and you might be gay, you might, have some sort of a disability, it doesn't it's talking about you have to be one way. And they're going to take all of that ability to have a lawsuit or to talk about how you're being mistreated, that's going to be taken away. It's going to curtail the teaching of race and racism to our children so that they won't know anything that's happened in the past and they won't know what is not going right now. Urging Congress to ban federal funds for critical race training takes history out of the books. It just wipes it out and completely keeps it, as I call it, whitewashed, that we put it in the way we wanted ourselves to look instead of how we really have looked all this time. If Donald Trump gets back in office, he will not have a regular presidency. He will have an authoritarian regime. Because if you want to purge everyone out other than white, Christian, evangelical people, then you have gone back in time to the McCarthy era. And if you don't know what the McCarthy era was in the 1950s, you need to look it up because we would not recognize our life today if you went back and you lived in that time. Now, I grew up in the 50s. My mother still believes that back in the day, the 50s were the best. And I've said before on this podcast that the 50s were not the best for women because we didn't have any rights, hardly. We still had to ask our husbands for credit card. They had to sign for us to get one. We didn't get usually work outside of the home much. And if we did, we were only teachers and nurses and secretaries. Nothing to do against any of those professions. You are all amazing and we need you. And I can't be any of those things. I could be a teacher. I did go to school for teaching, but I know I could never be a nurse and I could never really do some of the secretarial work because I'm too scattered for that kind of stuff. So my point is, right now we have women in top leading jobs and they're making money and they're not as much as the men, still inequality, but we have evolved so much as a strong force of nature being female. And that's going to be different because it's going to be whittled and whittled and whittled away. And it might be subtle or it might be drastic. I'm not sure how fast things can go. Usually not that fast, but it doesn't matter how fast. It matters that it's going to happen. If he's allowed 4 more years in that position of power, he can destroy this country. And I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, but I know that bad things are going to happen because if you look at the 2025 project, there's no good news in there for anybody that is not white, Christian, evangelical. Now, I'm a Christian, but I'm not the right kind of Christian because, one, I'm a gay Christian. So, and I don't believe in the patriarchy of Christianity. I believe in inclusion. I believe in that women can serve in the church and women can be priests and women can be pastors and women can be elders. And my dear friend on Facebook and who I've also met at the Wild Goose Festival just became an elder in the Methodist Church. And why did she become an elder in the Methodist Church after 20 years? Because they finally opened the church to be inclusive. And so she finally, with all the education and experience and everything that she needed to do to be an elder, which gives her permission to preach and do baptisms and all these things, she has that now because they became inclusive. If we cannot continue to have progressive, inclusive churches, we all go back to the same kind of religion. And honey, I grew up with the hellfire, brimstone religion, and I'm not going back. I'm not going back. So I believe that we have a personal investment in being awake and being ready to vote responsibly and to vote for our country. I know they think they're voting for their country, and I want to vote for my country. But what I'm really voting for is rights. I'm voting for us not to go back to the 50s. I'm voting for us to have personal and group rights. I want everybody on this planet to be able to be safe, to be seen, to be heard, and to have a president that sees and hears and believes in us as we believe in us. That they believe in this country, they believe in decency and honor and truth, and that we do not respect someone who has done heinous things to women and committed, crimes that could have completely disabled our democracy on January 6th. That was treason. I don't care how you slice it. I will never not think that was treason to allow an attack on the Capitol and to not call those people off and to even praise them for showing up and being good people. They made a bad choice. I don't know if they're good people or not, but I can tell you that what they did was horrible. People were murdered that day, and I can't vote for anyone that had any part of that because that's not who I am, and I will not stand for that. So if you don't stand for that, we have to stand for something else. You can't be on the fence. I'm sorry. My mama likes the fence. She likes to see both sides, and she can see good in both sides. That's not a bad quality, by the way. It's good to do that, but not in this case. This is clear sides. We have two candidates. We have to make a choice. And there's absolutely no way that I'm going to make a choice for someone who wants to erase me from society. And I will not be a part of that. And I hope that this was not a fear-mongering thing for you, but an empowering podcast for you today, that you have some information and now you have somewhere to go. Look up Project 2025. Read through it, listen to people on Instagram who are talking about it, listen to news stations that you trust, because this is a topic of discussion, and we really need to get clear as to what's going to happen, what they expect to have happened, and if they have the right amount of loyalist backing, it's going to be exactly what we've seen in the last year of waiting and getting out of and denying and lying, and it's just going to be another Shatola show. And I can't say it any other way. I mean, seriously, all the other countries are laughing at us because we have allowed this to happen. And if we let it happen again, we have lost a lot of credibility in our neighbors, and people that we rely on are not going to see us as a strong country anymore because we will be a laughing stock to most of the people who are watching. So I commend to you today empowerment. Be empowered to know who you're voting for, know what each candidate stands for, and what they've done in the past. That's vitally important because unless people make a decision to change, they will repeat who they are over and over and over again. If they've told you who they are, believe them because that's who they are. Even when you hear them say there's somebody different, watch what they've done. Look at their track record as how they've treated people, how they treated other countries, what's been important to them. What did they do the first 180 days of their last terms? What were their goals? How often did they stay in the office to work? How many vacations or golf events did they take? I know I'm being petty now, but seriously, be aware and let's stand for our rights because we deserve them. I want to thank you for listening, for subscribing, sharing, and supporting this podcast. And if you want to see more information and grab those links so that you can get your discount code for the Wild Goose Festival, go to the Gay with God show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. Check out my Facebook group, Gay with God, where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. We actually have one tonight, and I hope that you'll join me. If you are not a member of the Facebook group yet, you have time to sign up today. Make sure you answer all the questions and say yes to the rules, and then I'll be able to admit you into the group. I do that for the protection of our members, of which you may want to be one, and so it's good to know that we can be safe in that group. So answer all the questions, agree to the rules, and I will invite you inside. Also, there's a Zoom link on the Gay with God page that will let you in to the Faith Journey group tonight on Zoom. If you need support to help you through your coming out and or faith journey, please go to the show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom and see how you can connect with me to receive a free consultation and then also sign up for coaching. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, or not even sure if you are gay, God has always been within you. Even when you didn't know it, you have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.